Save Our Indian River Lagoon Project Plan Citizen Oversight Committee meeting. I'm John Windsor. I'm chairing for David Lane today, who couldn't make it. I'm calling the meeting to order, and we need a, let's do the pledge first, okay? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Carol, could you do the roll call, please? I can't hear you. Is your microphone on?
John Lusnar?
Here.
Vinnie Taranto?
Here.
John Windsor?
Here.
Let's see, Laura Lee Thompson? Stephanie Ely? Here. Melissa Martin?
Here.
Courtney Barker?
Here.
Todd Swingle? I'm sorry, he has to be excused. And Dennis and Danielle have not arrived yet. I believe we have a quorum. We need 4, so.
David Lane's son is sick.
Yes, and Terry Casto is in Boston. He won't be able to make the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So we have a quorum, just barely.
Yes.
I had a quick question about the procedure. If for some reason I couldn't make it today, and let's say I got sick this morning, I got caught in traffic, who would take over to run the meeting? I don't know what our policy is. Would the group that's assembled, if there was a quorum here, elect somebody to run the meeting that day?
That seems like a,
Okay, if I just wanted to get that out there, because I started thinking about this when I was asked to fill in last night. I said, oh gosh, I hope I don't, I mean, I was up at 4 o'clock this morning worried about oversleeping and all that kind of stuff. So if I dozed off in the middle here, Mel will smack me, I'm sure. Okay, we need an approval of agenda, but we need to go back to the agenda for just a minute. I guess the meeting minutes, or the recording of the meeting started after we did some of our early procedures last time. And you may have noticed if you read the minutes, there is no names listed for the approving the agenda, the motion to approve, and the second for approving the minutes last month. I don't remember for sure, but I think I made the motion to approve the minutes. And does anybody remember who seconded?
maybe somebody that's not here.
Could be, probably Lorraine. She's a good seconder.
But yeah, I think that's right. I think Lorraine was the seconder last time, yeah. And so if you would put those in there, and now, with those changes, anybody else have any other changes? Motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
So the minutes are all okay from last time? Let me jump back to the agenda. Is there any changes to the agenda? We okay? This is the final, best and final version that we have here in front of us? Okay, so motion to approve the agenda.
I'll move to approve.
Second?
Aye.
Okay, we got those? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Did you,
There was a vote on the minutes.
was there a vote on the minutes?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We okay now? Just to make sure. Thanks for checking on me. Okay, monthly progress and fiscal reports. And then after that's over with, we'll have some presentations.
Okay. So this is the quarterly meeting where you get the long version of the update. So for my progress report, I'm just going to touch on a couple things that staff will not be covering. So at the bottom of work completed this month, we've been, Crystal especially has been working with the county's auditors to do the 6-month audit on the Save Our Indian River Lagoon plan and process. And so that their report is done. It's quite favorable. They're going to be presenting that to the audit committee next week. And then I'm going to, I've asked if they can present that to this group next month. So hopefully their schedules will work out and you can get that audit report. Then under work underway this month, we're in the process of trying to set up interviews for applicants for our vacant staff position. And I've submitted the agenda to the board to find a replacement for Danielle Bowden, as she announced last month that she was going to be resigning. So we'll see what happens with that on Tuesday.
I'm retiring.
That's right.
I served my term. I'm retiring. I'm resigning.
Full career.
She's way too young to retire. And then I don't know if anybody's seen the Lagoon Loyal billboards as you're driving up and down the county. That we're doing more and more outreach, but that's the thing that I see fairly regularly. We have 43 different businesses, some with multiple locations, so 47 businesses have donated to that Lagoon Loyal campaign to promote people taking actions that will reduce pollution or clean up pollution that's already happening. So that program is growing. We have 171 folks that have gone onto the website and taken the footprint quiz, so it's growing. And I think that's all I wanted to say on that page. On the flip side of the sheet, under science forums and public events, the Water Management District held a community meeting for the Crane Creek M1 project night before last. And so they had lots of good storyboards around the room. They had a video, what do you call it? The model of the project and how the weir was going to work, and how they had a miniature version of the weir so people could see how it worked during power failures to protect the community. And so it was a really good meeting. We're looking forward to that project getting underway. So with that, I think I'll hand it over to Brandon for the performance table.
All right, so your performance table with the green boxes will just be going down, starting at the beginning, and we'll have our staff who handle the different projects. They're going to cover their sections, and I'll cover the ones from the cities.
Okay, I'm going to cover the county's stormwater projects. So the first one is John Jones Pond, and that I must not have updated on the form. It should be 90% complete for engineering, and permitting has officially begun for that, and then we'll soon be getting it ready to go out for bid. And then Kings Mill Aurora Phase 2, that one we finally figured out which consultant we're going to use, and a task order has been done, and so design has started. For Huntington Pond, also engineering 90% done. That pond, unfortunately, we don't own, and it's on someone else's land, and we're trying to contact the landowner currently to get approval for that project to get it started. Flounder Creek, engineering done, permitting has started. Basin 1349, engineering 90% done, permitting started. Basin 1409, engineering 90% done, permitting started. And then Basin 989, the task order was delayed. So we're still ongoing with that to get a consultant. Basin 1298, the rest are other engineers in the county, so if you have questions on these, I probably won't be able to answer them as accurately. But Basin 1298, that's 30% complete engineering, 60% engineering submitted, and 50% permitting done. And they're aiming for project completion by March 2020, but that includes a safety margin. For Basin 1304, it's 60% engineering submitted, 50% permitting done, and same aiming for project completion March 2020. Basin 832, Broadway Pond, we have permitting and engineering done, and it's on hold for additional projects to bundle for bidding. Basin 100, Road. Engineering 100% done, permitting 66% done. There are currently permitting delays, and that's the same for Basin 115, Carter Road, 100% done, 66% done permitting, and they have delays for those. Basin 2134, Fleming Grant, permitting and engineering done. Project size was expanded, and that one's also on hold for additional projects for bidding. Basin 51, John Rhodes Pond, 100% done for permitting and engineering and waiting for other projects for bidding. And then Basin 193, Wiley Road, engineering is 100% done, permitting is 66% done, and they also have permitting delays. Do you guys have any questions on this?
So the one number that you have for project complete is an average of the numbers for the individual components?
So engineering is what they show on the performance table, and so I assume those other engineers, they put, they did the percentage of both of those, engineering and permitting.
Great, thank
Yeah.
you.
You mentioned there were a couple who had some permitting
Delays, yeah.
What's going on? Any details on those?
Those aren't my projects, so I can't tell you specifically, but,
Okay.
I mean, I can find out if you need to know.
I mean, are they at the state level or are they, you don't know?
The progress report is all I have, and it doesn't specify, it just says permitting delays.
Right, thanks.
So, sorry about that. Anything else?
I was just going to reiterate that I think it would be nice for us to know what permits, if there's any way that Virginia can attempt to leverage some of that, if we know.
Yeah, we
what the
can find
delays
that
are.
out.
Thank you.
Are they yours?
This is Robin Spratt.
Lead engineer in our office in the stormwater program. I wasn't really prepared to say anything, but the two basins that I'm currently working on, Basin 1298 and 1304, those are both in District 4. Not really having any delays with permitting. It's just a matter of weeks before we get the St. John's permit. We don't need right-of-way permits on those. The ones that are in Titusville, District 1 area, Mims, Scottsmore, I don't remember all the basin numbers, sorry. Those are being done by another engineer, but I think the delays he's run across are related to right-of-way permits and land acquisition. So they're held up because we don't necessarily own the land. So that's a major holdup on most of the projects that we're running across.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you. Thanks, Rob.
Thanks.
Thanks, Rob.
Walker?
Yeah.
Morning.
Morning.
I'll try to quickly march through these and not bore you all to tears with the information on these projects. I guess this is on the back of, is this page 2? Yeah, okay, we're starting on page 2. The MIMS muck removal project, dredging and discharge of the effluent water was completed back in December. Marching down to Grand Canal, we, as some of you are likely aware, we started construction on the Pineda dredge material management area. Any of you who commute on Pineda will see on the eastbound side of Pineda Causeway, right before you get to that big sound barrier wall as you're coming up on South Patrick, there's a county-owned parcel. It's about 10 acres that our contractor has started clearing. They've installed a turn lane there. That's where the dredge material will be processed at, and it'll be processed and dewatered and then transported to an upland disposal location from there. So we've kicked it off. The contractor has been quick to get going on this, so that's where we're at. We've only got 2% complete in terms of the project budget at this point, but we're just getting ramped up. Sykes Creek. We are buttoning up the final bid package for phase 1 right now. We're hopeful that it'll be out on the streets in the next 30 days. And that is basically, it's a portion of the original Sykes Creek dredge project where we'll be dredging some of the open water areas and the residential canals just east of the Kiwanis Island Park over there in Merritt Island. Turkey Creek, that was completed quite a while ago. So that's been done for a while. Merritt Island muck removal. It's my understanding that we have. Where's Matt at? Did we respond to REI number 2 yet? Okay, all right, we're in the process. We've received the second RAI from the FDEP on our environmental resource permit to get appropriate state authorization for the Merritt Island project. We got one RAI, responded to that. We have a second RAI that they're in the process of preparing and providing a response to. And the next project, the Miko sewer line extension, I believe permits were submitted last week. Where we've been in a holding pattern at 90% design for a while as we figured out a couple of the nuances with the project. So that's a big milestone to get our permit applications in. So we'll just, until we get responses from the regulatory agencies and appropriate authorizing organizations, you know, we kind of have to sit and wait. So does anyone have any questions about anything?
What about O'Galley?
Oh,
Right.
did I miss O'Galley? These pages are not numbered, so I'm kind of,
Yeah, me too.
Right.
I think I'm missing that page.
Mhm.
Yes, I am missing that page. Okay. Sorry about that. That did seem a little bit short. So the Titusville area, that actually encompasses, this is pre-2018 plan update, so Titusville area was all lumped in. As we collected more information on different muck deposits, we isolated each one of them as individual projects. Like you'll see now we have NASA Causeway East and West, Titusville Railroad East and West. So in the 2019 plan update, they were broken out individually. This is, it says Titusville area muck removal. That's a blanket for all of these. Shows that we're about 10% complete. We are in the process of getting, actually I just got some draft task orders from a consultant to take the next step and collect bathymetric data on these sites for NASA Causeway East, Titusville Railroad East and West, and then do the muck mapping there to get a really good idea. So we can take the next step, do the design, identify the quantities of muck, and then move forward with submitting permit applications. O'Galley area, I anticipate that we should have our first round of draft final bid documents from the consultant. It's supposed to be the end of this week, but it's not because it's Friday unless I get them by the end of business today. I expect to have them sometime next week, and then we'll review them and provide comments back, and then we'll button up that bid package. So that should be on the street in the next 60 to 90 days. And then Rockledge area, we did collect some some environmental resource information. I believe it was last year. We've been in a bit of a holding pattern, with the 2019 plan update. There's funding for this project that will be coming forth this next fiscal year, so starting October 1. So once that rolls around, we will end up getting a proposal from one of our consultants and doing the muck mapping bathymetric survey, which is step one in the process, before we move into full design and then permit applications. So I think that is all of my projects, hopefully. If not, you can call me back. You can call me back up here. Anybody have any questions about anything?
On the Pineda Causeway,
Yes.
in that area that was cleared, so it looks like one of the collateral benefits was removal of a lot of non-native vegetation there. Looked like
Yes.
there was a lot of Brazilian pepper. What's going to be the fate of that area after the treatment is completed?
So we have a site restoration plan where we are going to come back in once dredging is complete, and we will restore it and replant it with native vegetation.
That's great.
So.
Thanks.
There was some public concern regarding how we haul the material off and do upland treatment, I think is what it's called, or application at least. And is there any way that we can reassure the public who might be concerned about this that it won't be affecting the water bodies or our water systems at all?
Yes, so we are waiting on a dredge material placement plan from the contractor. We've had significant discussions with them. They have an agreement with the upland property owner, which is an agricultural property. And we've discussed the concerns. There's concerns with the arsenic concentration, and then there's also concerns for introduction of nutrients into whatever watershed it is in, which is
St. John's.
St. John's, right? So As we collect more information, we're going to work with the contractor and the property owner to, make sure that this placement is done appropriately and within the bounds of what their agricultural plan is for their property in that regard. So,
Thank you.
any other questions? Thank you.
Morning, I'm Anthony Gubler. So start down on the sewer lateral replacement. We have done our third round of sampling of the groundwater, the replacement sampling there. We have had a few laterals already replaced, a few more that need to be replaced. We have prepared mail outs for the riser, the cap, where the cap is that you see in the yard. Those that were broken, we'll be approaching those homeowners next. Next one down, Sykes Inn. This we have 100% design. It's been approved by utilities. They are preparing the bid documents and the permits for this, so we'll be moving forward this fall with that. Sykes Creek M, we just received a 30% design submittal this last week, and utilities will be looking over that in the next few weeks, and we'll have a better idea of our schedule and costs with this submittal. On Sykes M, because of the tight area, we are looking into trenchless sewer installation using directional drilling there. We're hoping this will save us some costs in the construction of the road and having to repave the entire road. On Sykes T, the engineer is still developing his 30% plans. We'll be getting those shortly. South Central Zone C, we received our 30%, utilities approved it. We are now waiting on the 60% design, and we should have that later this fall or early spring. So I believe that is it. Anything else I'm missing?
Anthony, I missed where you are on the spreadsheet.
Okay.
Do you know what page that was on?
I do not have a page number.
We need page numbers.
Thanks.
Add page numbers.
Yeah.
So it was, I started below the muck.
The muck removal.
Right, on page 4, you
Yeah.
numbered them.
Where's Rockledge area muck removal?
Yep.
Mhm.
They're going into Sykes Creek lateral, sewer.
Sewer upgrade.
Lateral for set,
Top of the
page says Merritt Island.
And then continuing on to the page 5, which starts out with South Central Zone C.
Any questions on this?
No, I think next time, either the page numbers or where each of those folks are going to come in and start talking. Roadmap.
I think it would be helpful to have a map, just with a number, and be able to reference as we go up and down. I know where a lot of this stuff is, but not necessarily all of it, and when we're bouncing around, I like having a visual of where exactly it is. Not that it's necessarily necessary, I just think it would be easier so that when we're talking to the public, I don't know, for me, I like looking at maps.
Are these all on the story map?
Yes.
They are, yeah.
And so if we just had the story map up in the corner while you're giving these presentations, would that be enough, or?
I think that would be, I mean, I'm leaving.
That would, that would be feasible.
But maybe that will
How
help someone.
easy is it to like
She's
find
watching
each of
it, though,
these and
yeah.
scroll all over?
Right.
Might
Well,
spend a lot of time.
since I have 5, that would be feasible. Some people, Brandon has many more he keeps track of, so.
Well, why don't you guys talk about it, because it's 3 months off?
Okay. Okay.
Let's see what we can come up with. All right, so going on to the Brevard Zoo projects on the page that Anthony left off on.
Because you're skipping Long Point and Riverview because they've
Yeah,
been
they're
done for
already,
quite a
yeah,
while.
those have all been completed, so I'm just going to go over the ones that have new information on them. So the Marina Isles is the Brevard Zoo oyster project that was most recently completed. So they finished construction on that on July 12th. And it has been submitted to UCF for the monitoring, so they are starting with that now. Then we have the Bettinger and Gitlin, both were in the previous report, and so they've already been completed. And same with Bomalaski, so we're actually going to go to the next page. So the top three ones there, the Banana River Lagoon plants, North Indian River Lagoon oysters, and the North Indian River Lagoon plant projects. We just completed the contract, or prepared the contracts. They're being reviewed currently before they go around for signatures. So those should be hopefully contracted and signed by both entities, I'm guessing hopefully by the end of next week.
Where are those projects located in the North Indian River Lagoon?
So there's various sites. The way we did it this year is that they submitted multiple addresses, and so they range throughout the basin in that area. So instead of submitting something for each individual basin, and we had issues the previous year where they may have not gotten a permit in a certain area. For example, we had mentioned at the last meeting they had pulled one of the projects because there was too much seagrass in the area, and so Eden Isles had been pulled because they couldn't get the permit to install there. So more seagrass, that's great, and but now they can't do anything else with that project. So in the contracting for these, we have proposed sites, and then if something comes up with a permit that they can't get through at one of the individual sites selected in there, we have an option for them to then move to a similar site within that basin.
Okay.
And so that way we have a little more flexibility in the contracting, and we don't have to wait for an entire year for them to get another contract for those sites.
And where is the Banana River? Where are those sites?
Again, they're scattered throughout, so there's some that are down towards the Merritt, on the Merritt Island area. There's others that are up in Cocoa Beach and spread throughout.
They're on the story map.
Yeah, they're all in the story map. So
The specific locations of the current addresses are all on the story map.
All right, and then the next one down below those three, the Central Indian River Lagoon. I missed it on updating this, but we do have progress on that one. So that one has actually been contracted, it's fully executed, and they're 36% of the way complete with the project. So they've done 100% of the site evaluations there, and they're about 67% of the way through the design, and they're working on the permitting currently. So that's one of the ones that has multiple sites. So they have submitted permitting, and they're doing design on some of the sites, but they're not doing it all in one lump sum for the permitting, so they have to go for a permit for each individual site. So. And then they've already started the material preparation and acquisition for the sites that they expect to get the permits on earlier within that region.
Just like we've previously discussed sort of, larger permits, we met with the permitting agencies to see if they would be willing to let us submit more generic permits to, permit an area all at once, and that was a no-go. So we're stuck permitting them, one address at a time.
So how's the are they like viable? Are they, have they been back there to see what they, if they're performing and growing and so forth, so?
Yeah, so we have UCF that is doing independent monitoring of all these sites.
Okay.
I think we reported last month the progress. They have a couple sites, they just did the 3-month, and then we have a 9-month, and the sites that we've been monitoring have all been performing well. They've been getting recruitment in some cases like quadrupling what was initially put there. They're seeing bridging of oysters now, And the oldest reef that they're monitoring, they can no longer tell the difference between the gardened oysters that were placed there and the recruited ones. They've gotten large enough now that they're indistinguishable from each other.
Nice. Good to hear.
Yep. All right, Cape Canaveral, we don't have the contracts on these projects, and you'll see there was one that was expected to have come in last fiscal year, or two that were expected to come in last fiscal year, the Cocoa Palms LID and Carver Cove Swales. They've been having issues with getting the property owners to agree to grant easements for these projects. So they're trying one last time this year and seeing if they can't get those easements through. If they can't, they will be withdrawing those projects. However, they indicated that they have a larger stormwater pond project that has actually more nitrogen removal than four of their projects combined. So they will be submitting that hopefully this next round of substitute projects. And if we can get these other ones in as well, they'll do those. But if not, that'll be hopefully a replacement for those.
But by the next quarterly update on this, you should know whether they're in or they're out.
We should, hopefully.
Okay.
All right, and the Church Street one is also, Cocoa Church Street is an old one, so we'll go down to Cocoa Beach and the muck dredging in Cocoa Beach, so Phase 3 muck dredging. So with that one, they are 82% complete with the...
Wayne's here. Did he want?
Oh.
Wayne, did you want to?
Do you want to discuss what's going on? Okay.
Good morning, Wayne Caragino, City of Cocoa Beach. I'm the project manager on our dredge projects. We have two projects currently underway that are partially soil funded. One is our Phase 3, which consisted of 13 canals south of the Minuteman Causeway in Cocoa Beach. We're about 87% complete on that project. Excuse me. I believe we have 3 more canals to do. And the other project is our Phase 2B, which is the last remaining 12 canals in the city. Once we complete that project, which we just started mobilizing, that's going onto a spoil island. We had to get back onto the island and reestablish the use of the DDMA, and that's underway right now. Once that's completed, we will have exhausted our permit, which was for 36 residential canals in the city of Cocoa Beach. So at that point, we're evaluating, identifying other muck deposits in the city and trying to figure out, our way forward from there. But everything's going well. The only problem that we run into, which is a problem everywhere, is the size of our spoil sites. And also a problem is the volume estimates from the original survey. The original survey that we're working off of was done 6 years ago now, so there's a little inconsistency. So what I'm trying to say is the volumes are running higher than we anticipated in a lot of cases, which kind of blows your budget out of the water, no pun intended. But other than that, we've been doing this for a while, and we could not do it without your help. And St. John's kicks in, and Matt with the DEP funds kicks in, and the city kicks in, and I guess you guys saw my video last time. There's actually a follow-up coming out with me wrestling an alligator and cage fighting a disgruntled citizen.
But the outtake.
Yeah. So that's it. It's all going good. And, we appreciate the help. And any questions?
Yeah, the original estimates for the muck, you said 6 years, they're from 6 years ago and they were off. Do you know if there's been that much more muck accumulation, or if the original estimates, who did the original, was it your contractor or?
No, it was, well, at that time it was Quinton Hampton, but they were bought out by Mead Hunt. So it was an engineering firm that we have a continuing services contract with. Mm-hmm. They hired a surveying outfit to do the bathymetric study. So there's a number of factors. the age of the bathymetric survey, and also the way it was done. It was, you know, the advances in those bathymetric surveys have been substantial since that point in time. And so this was done the old way, where they polled, you know, and basically what they did was they polled the mouth of the canal, they polled the midpoint of the canal, and they polled the end of the canal. And then there was a lot of interpolation done in between. So those factors just added up, and, you know, so some of them are very accurate. You know, our phase 1 was very accurate, and some of them are just, you know, off. And it could be too, you know, just 6 years of additional material being dumped into the.
We found that the standard spacing for those pollings was inadequate, so we've gone to a much tighter spacing as well.
Yeah, we do too, so, you know.
Yeah, and that old-fashioned polling is actually still a pretty good technique.
It is actually, but you have to do more
You have to do more,
cross sections, yeah.
Any other
That's it.
questions?
What's the new way?
They have dual
Frequency. Dual frequency?
dual frequency transducers that will get you the top and the bottom. Yeah. So, yeah, if we had the money, we'd probably just redo them, but, you know, that's not cheap, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
And there's if you go to your next page, there's another Cocoa Beach one on there. It's not one of Wayne's projects, so that's the water reclamation facility upgrades. So they're reporting about 25% overall project complete. They have 100% of their permitting done, and they issued a notice to proceed for construction on June 11th. They held a pre-construction meeting that same day. Now, they did say they have a long lead time on the materials being ordered for the construction, so that's going to take a little time before they can get into the meat of the construction there. And Gleason Park is an old project. Same with the grass clippings campaign, that we are working on a sort of second phase to that, and we'll be doing some more outreach and education with that. The other Marine Resources Council projects, the Cocoa Beach Country Club and Lagoon House, are old projects. And then City of Melbourne, Danny Straub is here. She is going to speak on behalf of their projects.
Good morning. My name's Danny Straub, and I'm with the engineering department. So we're a little further along than what the update shows, because we had some things happen in the last couple weeks. So the Hogue Ag Avenue septic to sewer project is in place. We have 2 single-family dwellings attached to it. So we're working with the property owners to get their reimbursements. We've sent them their letter telling them how much they can have, but they haven't called me back wanting their money. So we're waiting on them to call back. Penwood is in sort of the same state. The force main's in place, but we're waiting for homeowners to come in to see if they want to tie in. So we will be working with them, trying to get them a little gentle shove. Cliff Creek went out to bid yesterday, so that's an update that's not on your list. We hope to have our property purchase completed by the end of next week. That's our anticipated closing date, but we're still waiting on the church that we're buying this little teeny piece of property from to get back to us. So we hope to come out to bid our open bids early September, and with on our contract to council by the end of September. Thrush Drive is under design way right now. I have 60% plans on my desk that I'm sending comments back to our consultant, so we hope to get that one out pretty quickly. Stewart, you don't have a contract for yet, because we're trying to figure out what we're going to do with that one. We hit a glitch originally with our original plan, and so we're trying to figure out how to fix that so we can move forward. The next 3, Spring Creek, or next 2, Spring Creek and Cherry Street, both have, I'm sorry, I lied. Cherry Street, the monitoring is completed, and we're waiting on my task order. Spring and Espanola, the pre-project monitoring. So to help save on cost, we do flow monitoring ahead of time, so that we don't have to spend a year doing a basin model, because a lot of these basins are 500 acres plus, and so it causes problems when trying to do a land survey on, because it takes forever and it's really costly, so we can do monitoring ahead of time. So we started that process before we submitted for our grant application, so we could try to get those all to tie together, and it didn't rain when I wanted it to rain, and now it's raining all the time. Cherry's done. I'm waiting for my task order from my consultant. Spring Creek and Espanola, I'm waiting on my monitoring to get completed. We're underway with that. You will be getting a contract for the Grant Street Water Reclamation Project within the next month to move forward with that. Our Public Works folks are ready to move forward. Our Riverside septic is halfway in the ground. We're waiting for homeowners to come in on that one before we can progress with the other section of the force main. I've had contact with some property owners out there in the last month, so I'm hoping I'll be hearing back from them soon. Roxy, again, we're waiting for a property owner to be ready for us, and so we don't like to put those force mains in the ground without anybody to tie into, because it's difficult to make sure we don't have any failures in the system. Grant is under, just approved their task order with my consultant, so Grant Place baffle box should be coming pretty soon. Apollo GA, the monitoring is done. I'm waiting for a task order on that one. And then the 2 Riverview Park projects are tied together with a find grant for a boardwalk project. Funding sources from internal. You guys aren't handling any of the boardwalk project, but we're sort of tied those two together. And the Parks Department has slowed us down just a little bit because they're waiting for some additional funding to help cover the boardwalk portion. So I hope to have some better answers for you on the next quarterly update.
Thank you.
I have one question, that's probably more for county staff though. When do we get credit for nutrient removal from a conversion from septic to sewage? Is it when the line is installed or when the actual hookup with the house occurs?
The hookup.
The actual hookup, okay, thanks.
Then the Myra septic to sewer removal, we are in the phase 2 of that in the Cone, that's that Cone Road project that we did the tour of. They are still, doing some construction. They are ready to hook up some of the businesses. However, they're seeking some additional funding through grant sources to help with those costs. So we are covering the connection fees, but of course there's other costs involved with hooking up those properties. So they're seeking an additional grant, and they're holding off on moving forward with the connections because once they give them the notice that they are able to hook up, they have 365 days to hook up. So if they're waiting on a grant and the grant money is delayed at all, then that's shortening the window that the property owner has to hook up. So they're waiting till that funding is secured before they notify the property owners that they have 365 days to hook up. The Palm Bay Bayfront is an old project. The Turkey Creek Shoreline Restoration, right? That's one that we had completed the contract and then it was put on hold because they wanted to expand it a little bit, and then they had to look for some permits. We've gotten word that they've received their permits from FDOT. They were waiting on some right-of-way permits, and we'll hopefully be getting the contract from them soon, or the revised one, to then send out. The Palm Bay's North Region Water Reclamation Facility, they've completed 100% of the design and permitting, and that was the one that we had approved to increase the funding on. So we just got that back from the reviews a couple weeks ago, so we have it scheduled. We're going to put an agenda together for the September 17th meeting with the commission for them to approve the increase in the cost. And then once that's done, we can move forward on that project. Then we'll flip to the next page. So Breeze Swept is an older project as well. One of our first ones completed. The St. Johns River Water Management District, Crane Creek M1 Canal Flow Restoration. They have 50% complete on design and 70% complete on their permitting. They just had a public meeting scheduled that was just held on August 14th. And They were waiting for public comments from that before they submitted the rest of their permitting. And a few landowner authorizations that we're also waiting on in regards to that permitting. So those permits should be going out hopefully shortly. And then they had a change in design for the excavation of a borrow pit on Heritage Parkway. And that's where they had to have some of those, or change in some of their permitting, and they're working on an intergovernmental agreement currently for that. Then Titusville, the St. Teresa Basin, they have a 100% complete in their permitting and engineering. And they haven't started on construction yet, but they're hoping by the next reporting period they will have started on construction. They have already awarded the bid, and so they're just waiting on the timeline for that construction to begin. The South Street Basin, this is one of the first ones that they started for construction with us. So that one is 90% complete on construction, and they that was a three different baffle boxes. So they've completed 2 of the baffle boxes. They're wrapping up the 3rd, and so that went out. That's being worked on currently. So hopefully we'll be wrapping that up in the next reporting period. Then the next one, the La Paloma Basin. This is one that they've completed their permitting and engineering on, and the contract has been awarded. Construction began in June, and they're about 60% complete with construction as of their reporting. Titusville High School baffle box. They're halfway through the design of that, and no update on the permitting yet, but so they're just in the design phase still, so 50% design complete on that. The Coleman Pond Managed Aquatic Systems, they actually completed 100% of that project. So unfortunately they let us know after they completed it, so we didn't get a chance to get out and film it. We were hoping to get out and get some footage of them putting it in place. So I'm reminding our project coordinators to let me know when their projects start construction so we can get out and do some social media coverage on that. But their floating islands are in and working. So. Next is the Osprey wastewater treatment facility. So they had taken some extra time on this, reviewing the systems that they were going to be using, and had decided on a step feed system, and that would meet their nutrient reduction goals and drop their costs down from what they originally projected. So once that was decided on, they said the project's been moving along at a smooth pace now, and they've completed 15% of the permitting and engineering both on that.
Brandon, what is step feed?
That I do not know.
And we don't have Todd to explain it to us. Yeah.
I'm not familiar with the wastewater treatment processes. Yeah, they just let me know they were evaluating several different types of systems, and that was the one that they had decided on for the nutrient removal to meet their goals.
And those goals
reduction in
are
cost.
set by us, right?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. And then we have the West Melbourne's Sylvan Estates septic to sewer conversion. So that one, we also had a change in the amount of funding on that, and the amendment to that contract is being circulated for signatures as we speak. And they're 100% complete on their permitting and design. They went to bid on July 3rd, and they just opened the bids this last week on August 12th. And they're expecting the construction to begin by October 1st. And that's all the projects currently ongoing.
Questions, comments?
I had some questions on the progress report, but I didn't know if I should have asked them then or wait till this. Can I ask those now, going back to the progress report?
Sure.
Okay, sorry. Just a few of them. I know and Brandon actually mentioned the Titusville Coleman Pond floating aquatic plant installation. I know it's complete. I think it would be really cool, since it's a unique project, to film it or to get some video about it, especially since we wanted to have an additional education piece to talk about the retention or detention ponds.
Yeah, I plan on getting out there to try to film the after, of the plants, and we figured to give the plants a little time to start to grow and actually be visible in those floating ponds. But the weather and just my schedule have not coincided yet to get out there.
Okay, cool. Yeah, maybe if we did like an education side of it, where we mixed a little bit of education into it, and that way, I know that education piece didn't get funded, but maybe we can use this as an opportunity to help others who have those ponds or areas. The other one was the printing postcards to notify owners for eligible for grant updates for the septic to sewer. I didn't know if we were having somebody design those, and just wanted to suggest that we did. I know a lot of flyers get put in the mail, and we all look at stuff every day, and if you can get something that pops, your chances of getting something that even free money in really big letters doesn't always work.
Yes.
Free beer.
So
yeah, that usually does though, Charles. Free beer, surprisingly.
yeah, so we've been working with MTN to design them, and they have the same sort of look and feel as the rest of that outreach program.
Awesome.
And yes, the free and big letters, and but we're also trying to make sure that they don't end up looking like advertising.
Yeah.
So it's a difficult balance to try to make it pretty and grab attention, but not look like advertising that just gets flaying. So one of the things we're doing is personalizing them, so they'll be printed with everybody's name and address. And
perfect.
so we're working on that database as well for the printer. So it's just, I thought, oh yeah, we'll just design this postcard, send it to the printer, and print several thousand of them. But it's more complicated, of course.
It's always harder than.
Yeah.
And we also have run into where some of the property owners, they may be a rental, so we have to make sure we get the property owner's address and not necessarily the actual property's
Right,
address.
so there'll be the address that is eligible for the funds that's different than the address that the postcard's being mailed to.
Bulk mailing possible.
Right.
So you don't get a good price. That's great.
Danielle, did you have a question?
I'm dropped.
Okay.
There was another one in the Grand Canal muck dredging. It says to add Berkeley. What is Berkeley?
The Berkeley Canal?
Oh, to add that canal. Okay. I
Yes.
was thinking that was some sort of chemical that was being added.
No.
Or some part of the dredging. I was like, where are we adding Berkeley? Okay.
Right.
And then
No, we had omitted Berkeley because we knew how much manatee usage there was in that canal, and we thought that that was going to be a permitting hurdle for that project, and that we would end up with these very small windows for construction. As it turns out, we ended up with very small windows for construction without the Berkeley Canal. So at this point, we're working on trying to add that back in.
Okay. And then I saw the Brevard Zoo one. There was withdrawn of the Oliver and Eden Isles withdrawn. Do we know why those were
So
withdrawn?
those were the ones where
Seagrass.
permitting, they couldn't get permits because of the seagrass coverage in those areas.
Okay.
So a plus for seagrass, but a minus for oysters.
Right.
Yeah.
So the seagrass wasn't there when the zoo did their original surveys and put in the request for those sites,
And
but it's
grown
come in since
Wow.
then.
Okay. Okay, and then the filming videos right below that, the lateral line repairs. I just wanted to make sure, I know after last month, we had some discussion of the smoke testing, I guess, and how successful it is. So I think it's important that we get information out to people who have houses or homes that want to do repairs to their own, that they can do that. Maybe I just want to make sure that we're not necessarily saying smoke testing is the only solution, especially in light of the panel that we had yesterday. So, saying, possible ways to find out if your laterals are leaking are, smoke testing and or CCTV or whatever. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And then the last thing was the Department of Transportation and stakeholder meeting. When is that? And I didn't know if anyone, because I might like to attend that just to make sure. I didn't necessarily think their response to us or to the counties letter about turning the causeway into more of a bridge based on wasn't it the 20-year study that they said was more important than Dr. Cirillo's study or something? So I just wanted to make sure that.
Yes, so I think I'm just realizing that I left my notes on that. Nope, here they are. Okay. I was going to cover that later on the agenda.
Oh, that can.
But yeah, the TPO meetings. There's a citizens advisory committee meeting on September 9th, and then the executive committee meeting is September 12th.
Okay.
Along with the governing board.
Okay. Awesome.
Okay, you done?
I am. Sorry.
Courtney?
I just wanted to thank you guys for including the Berkeley Canal, because I get asked about that constantly, even though that area is not in the city of Satellite Beach, but we get questioned about that a lot, about why that wasn't included, so I'm glad that you're looking at that. And then the other update I had for the sewer lateral replacement repair, even though the sewer system is not owned and operated by the city of Satellite Beach, you would think that everybody thought it was. But it's not. But I wanted to make sure that you all knew we contacted all those owners that you let us know that you gave us. And there's been 2 that actually got the repairs done themselves without permits, so we couldn't really check on that. But the other 2 were just not interested in the program. So going back to that free money, I guess I don't know if it's just a fear of having to work with government, but they just simply did not have any interest in participating.
So Anthony reached out to all of the 30 properties multiple times, trying to recruit them to this program. And then we contracted with the consultant, Applied Ecology. They did additional recruitment efforts, door hangers, weekends, evenings, and then we reached out to the city of Satellite Beach and Indian Harbor Beach, and they both agreed to also give it a try for the ones that were non-responsive. So I don't know what more.
But I think you guys did a great job, though, because you only gave us like 5. So I mean, you went from 30 to 5. So I think that,
And these are,
you did pretty good there. You know, I
these are
think
homes we know where the lateral and the laterals are broke and leaking.
Yeah.
Sounds like a code enforcement issue.
Yeah.
Well, we
I mean, leaking septic,
were
isn't that
talking
kind
about
of
that with Virginia about looking at an ordinance regarding that. So there's a lot of legal issues with that. So we're. Do you see that look at it? She's like, oh God.
Pitching it as something like free home improvement.
You know, a number of those that aren't interested have for sale signs.
Letter to the realtor would help.
It's, you know, that brings up a good question, because we could present this to the Realtor Association if you all have like your meetings and stuff. I mean, we'll be glad to come in and explain that program and give you the little thing.
I've been helping.
You've done all that? Okay.
But I would like to incorporate that, because we're getting ready to organize a talk, so that would be good.
Yeah, and we've got a database of everything that's for sale in your target area. I think I spoke to them last month about. We got a database of everything that comes up for sale. If you have somebody that is getting ready to do a sale and you think there's a leaky lateral there, it's going to mess up that sale. They might as well get it done now.
How do we talk to Courtney?
In the sunshine, she means. In the sunshine.
We would have to advertise it, yeah.
Okay.
So we could come to you in a public forum and present it to you. That would be possible.
You can talk when you leave.
Or you could when you're off the board, we can chat.
Yes. After you retire.
When you're retired.
All right.
Okay, are we good there with questions and comments?
Did you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I mean, it's kind of exciting. I think there's a dozen projects or so that have been done. So, you know, we're making progress. You know, there's a lot more in the pipe, but hopefully when you guys are doing your programs to the citizens, that they're aware, you know, we're getting there. It's a long way to go, but there's been some measurable progress done. So I think, you know, you guys done a great job presenting it, and keep up the good work.
And since we've added in the story map, we've put that into our presentations as well, and It's gotten a lot of good response, and people, once they visually see all the project dots on there, they didn't realize there were that many projects going on.
I love the septic tank one. I use
Yeah.
that quite a bit when I'm talking to people about septic tanks.
So, really quickly. Regarding the performance table, assuming everything is said and done, are there any wastewater treatment facilities that won't be at the advanced or tertiary filtration level?
Yes, there are, so the nitrogen standard for advanced wastewater treatment is 3 milligrams per liter. And a lot of the county's facilities are currently at 4 or 5 milligrams per liter. And so it's just not cost effective in terms of the plan dollars to invest in those upgrades. It's the facilities with much higher current nutrient levels that are the ones that are being upgraded.
Okay, great.
And our target was around 9, because that's what.
6.
Or was it? Okay, our little charts.
And this is the reclamation.
For the grass. The grass takes up at about 9.
5 to 9, so we
Yeah.
picked 6 as our target.
Okay, are we going to move on to the revenue discussion, or can we move on to the revenue discussion? Yes, thank you.
Good morning, y'all. Crystal Melton. All right, so we are at a revenue collection of 109 million. Did we have anything? All right, you'll notice in your packet there is a replacement page for the front page. When this was converted for ADA compliance, 2 numbers was changed, so that was corrected. Do you have any questions within the tables? All right, that's all I have to offer.
It's put together very well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I can't see the changes in the two.
All right.
But you don't need to point it out, it's okay. I just,
It was, one row was different, and so
Okay.
then that meant that the total was also off by the same amount.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. So are we ready then for other reports and special presentations? And I'm going to remind everybody to make sure your green lights are on in front of your microphones when you're talking. Nobody can hear you if out there in TV land.
All right. So we have another video presentation for you. This one is sort of an overview of the Turkey Creek Watershed and all the different projects and activities going on with that.
And, one of the things was sort of the sequencing of projects and wanting to do improvements in the upland to reduce nutrient pollution before we do the cleanup. And so this is trying to tell that whole story of all the things that are going on upstream that are working with the Turkey Creek project to keep new pollution out of the lagoon.
The goal of the Save Our Indian River Lagoon program is to reduce water pollution quickly and cost effectively. This means looking for where the biggest differences can be made as soon as possible. Most of the nutrient pollution in the lagoon is from diffuse sources, like you and me, from the way that we live. Our fertilizer, lawn chemicals, and grass clippings, our pet waste, our septic systems, our leaky sewer pipes, our excess irrigation, our car care, including car wash water, fluid leaks and emissions, and much, much more. So, if pollution is everywhere, from all of us, where do we intercept it? Turkey Creek receives pollution from 300 miles of drainage canals in Palm Bay, West Melbourne, and Melbourne. It's the largest Indian River Lagoon tributary by volume in Brevard. As the largest tributary, Turkey Creek delivers the largest amount of pollutant load, with an impact that stretches far beyond Palm Bay. Fishermen have witnessed dirty water from Turkey Creek discharges flowing north past Melbourne and O'Galley, up the Indian River past Dragon Point, and up the Banana River. How do we reduce the discharge of pollution from Turkey Creek? It requires collaboration with multiple agencies and jurisdictions on multiple fronts. This collaboration began before the half-cent sales tax, but has been expanded and accelerated with Lagoon tax funding. The biggest collaboration involves the St. John's River Water Management District, the Melbourne-Tillman Water Control District, Brevard County, and a state grant, all supporting the C1 rediversion project.
Sawgrass Lake Water Management Area, we're about 10 or 12 miles west of the Indian River Lagoon. And behind me, you'll see some pumps out here that are pumping water into this area that we call Sawgrass Lake Water Management Area. All of the canals in Palm Bay eventually reach the C1 canal. What that means is you have billions of gallons of fresh water going into an estuarine system. And not only that, that fresh water is stormwater, which means it has nitrogen and phosphorus in it. And those fuel algae blooms. And we're all familiar with the algae blooms in the Indian River Lagoon. Thanks to this project, we have removed roughly 9,000 pounds this year of phosphorus that would have gone into the Indian River Lagoon and 100,000 pounds of nitrogen. And although it ends up here, it's not hurting the St. John's River because the plants here are naturally filtering the water. So we're supplementing the flows of the St. John's River, which is a good thing, putting it back where it belongs.
To summarize, in 2018, this project directed 20 billion gallons, 55% of the water volume and its pollutant load, west through a treatment marsh to the St. John's River. Melbourne-Tillman Water Control District, with assistance from the St. John's River Water Management District, now uses a harvester instead of herbicides to remove aquatic weeds that contribute to flooding. This removes nutrients that would otherwise fuel algae blooms. Melbourne-Tillman Water Control District has installed floating booms to catch floating plants and litter. St. John's River Water Management District has installed top-opening gates at the MS1 weir structure to hold back muck that used to discharge from the canals into Turkey Creek. The City of Palm Bay, funded by Save Our Indian River Lagoon Trust Funds, is upgrading the quality of their reclaimed water. Currently, the reclaimed water distributed for irrigation has more nutrients than grass can absorb, so don't add more fertilizer and don't water too much. Lagoon Trust Funds are being used to scrub nutrients out of the reclaimed water so that it will no longer exceed what the grass can use. The City of Palm Bay, funded by Save Our Indian River Lagoon Trust Funds, is extending sewer service to the most polluting lots and neighborhoods along Turkey Creek and the lagoon. The City of Palm Bay, funded by Save Our Indian River Lagoon Trust Funds, constructed a pond to trap and filter stormwater pollution. The City of Palm Bay, funded by Save Our Indian River Lagoon Trust Funds, will be planting a living shoreline with mangroves and spartina grasses and restoring filtering oysters to the bay. A large collaboration of Brevard County Boating and Waterways, the Florida Legislature, FEMA, Save Our Indian River Lagoon Trust Funds, Florida Inland Navigation District, Florida Institute of Technology researchers, and the city partnered to dredge muck from Turkey Lake and Turkey Bay, improving oxygen, water clarity, and reducing muck impacts on lagoon water quality.
We are here at the Turkey Creek Dredge Material Management Area. As you can see behind me, that is the slurry coming from the dredge. They're pumping the muck material. This is all part of our Save Our Indian River Lagoon program, and this is one of many projects that is currently underway.
All these projects and partners, manpower, commitment, and Save Our Indian River Lagoon Trust Funds are working together to deliver the first major improvements for a healthier Indian River Lagoon.
Very good.
Kilroy, you're
Any questions or comments on that? If not, I guess we're going to go into the Kilroy.
Yeah. We put it on our YouTube. We'll put it on our YouTube page, and then we'll do a release. Spread it out on Facebook release. But, yeah.
Great.
So I'm here to provide everyone an update on the status of the Orca Kilroy stations. The installations have been a long time coming.
the continuous water quality monitoring stations.
Yes, the continuous water quality monitoring stations. Orca has this interactive web page where they have a number of monitoring stations throughout the Indian River Lagoon. The county has contracted with Orca to install an additional 4 stations in various locations that we selected because we think data in that area, in those areas, could be very valuable in helping us, deal with the water quality issues that we have. So I was just going to show you. We have 3 of the stations installed and active, and they're live on this interactive web page. We're still trying to work out the details of the 4th station that's going to be installed. So in this area here, this north station here, which is labeled Cars Park, this is one of our newly installed stations. We thought North Banana was an appropriate area to collect water quality data. There's been a lot of algae blooms that have started up there, so that's a good spot with some useful information that we can collect. The next area, the next station that we installed, they call it Barge Junction. To me, this is really the north end of Sykes Creek, just south of the point, the confluence of the Barge Canal and Sykes Creek. Again, that's another area where we've seen some pretty significant water quality issues. And the next 2 stations, I'll zoom in here, are within the Grand Canal system. We only have one of them installed at this point. This one that you see up here is Grand Canal North, and then we're going to install another station down here at the very southern terminus of the Grand Canal where it dumps into the Banana River. Really what we're trying to do is we're trying to get a better understanding and feel for the nutrients and the flows that are coming out of the Grand Canal system and entering Banana River proper, really. We don't have a lot of hard data on that, so that's the intent there. So there is actually a link on the agenda to the website, or you can Google Orca Kilroy, and this link will come up. This will be the first one at the top of the list. So be happy to answer any questions.
You're gonna click on one and show what you can.
Oh, okay. So what you see here, this is Grand Canal North. This is the actual real-time data that you're seeing. So we've got pH levels, salinity. This one does not yet have, let me go up to a different one. This one doesn't yet have the nutrient information showing on it. These all went live a couple weeks ago. Does this? Okay, yeah. So here we have what they were calling the Barge Junction, which is the north end of Sykes Creek. It's got all of the data and information that they typically collect with the Kilroy stations, including nitrogen and phosphorus concentrations at each of these station locations. You can also look at the historical data. Down here at the bottom left, there's something that says historical plots. So you can select any of the information that you see over here. For example, I'll go down to, where's nitrogen?
Chlorophyll.
Or chlorophyll, which is...
Chlorophyll and DO.
Yeah, you've chlorophyll, dissolved oxygen, pH, salinity. There's a wide variety of information that you can select, and then you can select your time periods over here on the right. Let's see how far these go back. That didn't work. And you can create your plot. And so you can see this actually went live on August 7th. But you can go through and get actual graphical plots of all the information that's available back to ultimately the start date of when they started collecting data and information. And this is across the board for all of these Orca Kilroys, but we have 3 installed that are live right now, and we have a 4th one that's going to be going in the next couple weeks. So collect some information that we could find useful.
I'm staring at you. Yeah. One question.
If we have the ones at the Grand Canal at the top and the bottom,
Mm-hmm.
would that give us some, reality data on how well our stormwater projects are doing from, as we move forward, like in the beach side? Do you see that as a good source for that, or?
I think that the challenge is that, so right now, probably the dominant signal is going to be the flux from muck. And so as we remove the muck, we expect that to change. Once that's done, then if we continue to leave the stations there, we could probably, definitely see storm events flushing nutrients through that system. That would be, very interesting to.
You just wonder.
And we may be able to see those storm events pushing the nutrients out, now, but it would be a combination of storm nutrients and flux, muck flux nutrients.
Vinny says he has one question.
So does Charlie.
It teams into what she said. You said that if we leave them there, so these stations were paid from Sorrel funds?
Yes.
And is there a plan as far, I know just overall, the monitoring stations in the lagoon were sparse or have been. So is this something that we're planning on leaving throughout the rest of the life of the plan?
Yes, but we could relocate them to where we have specific, questions that we want to answer that systems like this could answer for us. And it may be that 1 or 2 years at a location would answer that question, and then we could move it to the next site.
Okay, thank you.
And I think one of the things that's important to point out, there are 4 stations that Walker mentioned that are new. There are 3 that have been there for a couple of years now, including the Sykes Creek station that pointed out to us we were about to have a fish kill just as the fish kill was happening. So what I would encourage people to do on this committee or in the general public, look at this site every once in a while. I look at it almost every day, and there's only one parameter I look at. It's dissolved oxygen. It tells me if I need to go look at everything else. And in terms of answering questions about how we're doing, I would never look at data like this at a 1-shot deal or 2-shot deal. You need long-term trend analysis of this kind of data. So right now, we have these monitoring stations, and we can move them. I would suggest we probably shouldn't be moving them, at least in the near future. If we need more monitoring, we get more stations. That's what I would suggest. Also, I forgot what else I was going to say, but that's okay. I'll cut it off there. Charlie?
Yeah, I just have one question on the chart with the y-axis and the nitrogen. So it has negative numbers, so is that baseline?
That is a very good question.
And it's a question that I posed to Orca probably 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, a year ago, and 6 months ago. And to Jim Waymer, I asked the same question probably when Orca machines were first put in. There is no such thing as a negative nutrient concentration. This is some of the variability in the sensor, and those probably correlate to something. We're not quite sure what that means exactly yet.
Right, so they calibrate monthly. And so then as conditions change and the sensors get fouled, you get this kind of thing. But the chlorophyll and the dissolved oxygen has been very, very valuable. The nutrient data is, I think there are a bunch of us that have questions about the validity of.
These are electronic signals that have been correlated to a concentration. And that electronic signal, there's so many things that affect the signal.
Right, the salinity or pH.
Look at this, the means and long-term data as opposed to the daily fluctuations of measurements here. The DO, look at that more carefully. And anybody who wants to look at these data, I suggest you start with the DO. Some of the other stuff's way more complicated to consider and think about, but the DO will tell you the story pretty quickly about whether or not oxygen levels are getting lower or higher and what the trends are over time. You should see a daily trend up and down with photosynthesis and respiration, and you should see trends from cold water to warm water. It'll become really obvious to you. Do it while you're sitting on your chair. You can do it on your phone, you can do it on your iPad, you don't have to go to a computer to do it. And it takes like maybe 3 minutes to look it up. And get in the habit of, adopt one station and make that yours. And look at it, and if you don't understand what's going on, reach out to somebody. I can be reachable through we have on the web page an address for this committee. I can be reached through there. But there are lots of people who understand what those data mean if you don't. I would avoid looking at things like the FDOM and the chlorophyll and other things like that until you got more comfortable with the dissolved oxygen.
Do we have someone actively monitoring DO from county?
We have monitors in the front of our office where we have all of these with a the last few weeks of data plotted out. We refresh that daily, and so we're watching them as we walk in and out of the office daily. Yes.
Very nice.
Quick question, what's the cost of the monitor?
The
What's a monitor, how big is it, what is it?
The equipment cost was covered by a grant from the legislature several sessions back. The ongoing cost is, taking a boat out to the site monthly to recalibrate everything, to clean everything, to knock off the barnacles, to add different reagents for the phosphorus sampling. And so
That's where the real
that
cost
is the real cost, which is $30,000 a year per station.
So we have not bought the stations, we're buying the services.
Right.
Paying for it.
Paying for the services.
Okay. That
So,
answers the question.
yeah, here's just a picture of what a Kilroy station looks like.
I'm not sure I want to show everybody what they look like out in the real world, because I don't want anybody to find them.
That's true.
Any other questions for Walker? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And next up on the agenda is he here?
No, I gave Dr. Zerillo credit for his report, but my plan was just to let you have a copy of
okay.
the numerical modeling report. There's this addendum to the report that was previously presented, and let you know that we had a large stakeholder meeting on August 7th with DOT and TPO. The DEP folks came down from Tallahassee. Water Management District folks came down from Palatka. Canaveral Port Authority hosted. Dwayne Freeze with the Indian River Lagoon National Estuary Program and county staff were all there to talk about what this report, this addendum report means and how we might go about incorporating it into the plans for the 528 upgrades. So the next step in the process are the TPO meetings that Vinny asked about, September 9th and 12th. So we're hoping that the DOT put the 528 project on hold, giving local stakeholders an opportunity to get these reports, look at these reports, and determine whether the causeways, whether locally we want the causeway elevated or not, understanding what the ramifications of that might be in terms of cost and delays. So the TPO will need to make a decision for the DOT as to whether we're going to move forward with the plans as is, or some modification. The Water Management District has volunteered to do some additional modeling. So what Dr. Zerillo has done, this is a hydraulic model, right, of what happens to dye, modeled dye in the water when you do these various causeway improvements. The Water Management District is going to turn that into a water quality model, because what we really care about is how does this impact salinity, temperature, chlorophyll, bloom levels. And so the district has the tools to do that, and they have volunteered to do that if DOT will allow us 6 months for that to take place. So I expect that to be the conversation at the TPO meetings in September. And we're very much looking forward to the district's modeling of what these improvements could mean in terms of, changes in water quality in the lagoon.
Question, Courtney?
There, the TAC and the TPR, are there going to be decisions made at that meeting, or is it just discussion and figure out where we're at?
I believe that, DOT sent a letter saying, we'll give you until September to decide what you want to do.
So DOT's wanting the TPO's desire, basically?
Yes.
And then, but the final decision on that would be obviously the FDOT, correct? So they,
Right, but I think they have conceded that, if locally we do not want to proceed with just widening the road, widening 528 across the Banana River without taking out any of the causeways, that they would be okay with that. The problem is that it would then send that entire project all the way back to the first step of design and NEPA coordination, and so that's a 15-year process getting through all of that, and requires millions of dollars. And so the funding that is ready to go for the next step in the current process, the land acquisition and stuff, that would be reverted back to the fund and could be directed to other places. And we don't know when we might ever see any improvements to 528. So it's balancing that desire for water quality improvements with the reality check of what's at risk for the community in terms of transportation.
With the NASA Causeway, which I'm hearing is on a major fast track, is there any hope that we could get some dirt removed when they build a new bridge there?
As I understood it from DOT in this meeting last week, any changes like that change wildlife impacts, change seagrass impacts, change the sorts of things that the regulatory agencies involved in the NEPA process would all have to weigh in on. And so that would cause tremendous delays.
Could we push the envelope and try to get a relief bridge on the western end?
I am
so
not an
helpful.
expert on DOT policy and procedure, so we could try to ask those questions, but I don't know the answer.
I think it would be helpful. Because those two pockets where the causeway joins the western side of the causeway joins with the mainland are nasty all the time.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
I'm sorry. I know, earlier, it was mentioned that there might be some new numbers from Dr. Zerillo's report, so that's that now we're talking about the water management doing their studies, right?
All right, so the new numbers from Dr. Zerillo in this addendum report, they show more movement of the modeled dye than the prior study. So in terms of maximum dye reduction modeled in different basins of the Banana River, those benefits went up from 9% to 15.7% reduction in modeled dye tracer. So he expanded the model domain, included exchange of water through haulover, and that allowed the whole system. There's more movement, and so that's why you're seeing more dive movement as well.
Okay.
But we still don't know how that translates into biological changes in the system. So that's why we need the St. John's modeling.
Okay, thank you, Virginia.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, we ready to go on to D?
Yeah. So we were working on putting together a panel for you for a waterman's point of view out there on the lagoon. We're really excited to have Captain Mayor Frank Catino with us today. Billy Rotney, Captain Billy Rotney was also planning to be here today. He's done some great work out there in the community. I'm not exactly sure what his conflict was today, but
All right,
welcome,
thank you.
welcome the mayor.
Thank you very much. First, I always tell people when I do these, I'm not a scientist. So nothing I say is any science base other than what I see out there. Not sure why I became a fishing guide, maybe because my wife has the real job, right? So, as most of our guides. But our business has changed drastically from pre-fish kill to now. Pre-fish kill, this lagoon system was a destination fishery. People came here because of the fishery, because of, and I'm going to use the term clear water. I can't tell you if it was clean, but it was clear. And people came here specifically for that, as they did the Keys and other areas. After that became a secondary fishery. People either came to Orlando, they're on business, they'd book a day. Prior, they would book a week. Very seldom my trips were ever single days. I worked with Dr. DeFries, we talk a lot, and trying to figure out, what is a guide day worth to the economy? Jotted down that if there's 50 to 100 guides a day working the lagoon during the season, it's worth somewhere between $50,000 and $100,000 a day. The average guy will spend $1,000 at the minimum a day coming here. He pays the guide, he buys 2 hotel room nights, he goes to Orly's restaurant, he eats, buys souvenirs. So the economic impact, which I don't think has ever been really, we can't find anything written down on it, was significant. Now we're secondary because the clients that we got had expendable incomes. They could go anywhere in the world. Today, to travel to Peru, to go fishing to any place, you just jump on an airplane and you're there. It's very easy. They came here, they don't. One thing I always find, though, out there, and my city manager and I talk about this a lot, we hear so many negatives about things, and you guys are doing a great job. I think somehow we've got to promote the positive. What are those good things that are happening out there? Because if all we hear is how bad things are, we don't get people. I can show you articles in the New York Times that fish and sports writers wrote about the area. It's no good anymore, it's dying. So it doesn't help anybody when people like this who have expendable incomes would come here. The lagoon, I'm just going to show you a few pictures of what I do, and I'll tell you about what I see in the lagoon. But most of these are after the fish kill. A few of them are before the fish kill. But let me tell you what I've seen this year. I was really worried this summer with the temperatures getting as hot as it was so quickly, that we would have algae blooms and so forth. And I didn't see it. Not that I didn't see them, there wasn't ones in certain areas, but there seems to be a significant increase in the clarity of the water over the last 6 to 8 months. Areas that, now as you know, the lagoon's a very long estuary, 180 miles long. We have a pretty good section of it from the north end, Turnbull Creek, down to Wabasso area or Sebastian. But an area from Pineda Causeway to past Turkey Creek, and especially the shorelines around Melbourne, for years would never clear. They're as clear as they've been in years. Turkey Creek is as clear as it's been in years. O'Galley Harbor or Ballard Park area, it looks as good as it has in a number of years. Turkey Creek too. I see hope, and I just would like that to be something that you as a committee show what you've been doing. If not, the word on the street is nothing ever gets done, and we'll lose the lagoon. The lagoon is getting clearer in places. The center of the lagoon from Cocoa Beach south, very clear in the center. A little tannic on the shoreline, and the reason I say that is there's a lot difference between clarity of water when you have an algae bloom than you do when it's stained. You can still see through stained water. You don't see through algae blooms. And a lot of the water right now, because of all the rain we have, is more stained than it is algae blooms. Of the few areas that I don't see a lot of improvement on is Sykes Creek, the upper ends in Sykes Creek. The islands in Cocoa Beach still are, very hard to see. And for some reason, because it was probably the most pristine and clear area that we fished was Mosquito Lagoon. And to me, that's the one that baffles me. It has the least number of houses, it has the least impact by stormwater runoff, and it's the last to clear up. And it only clears when it's cold. So let me show you, since I'm like zero technical. So do I just click on this little thing? Sorry. My only employee. That's the only one I could handle. No. So one thing I learned in it, this is a Mosquito Lagoon slide. The more mosquitoes you have, the better fishing is. It's just one of those things. So this is how most of us make our living in a day. Small skiffs, we push it around. I only fly fish, so everything you see is from fly fishing, and it's in shallow water. I can't tell you what it's like fishing in 5 foot of water because I fish in inches of water, except for a couple. So one of the things I tell people, our environment here affects other areas. This is a pretty cool porpoise. He's not around anymore. I haven't seen him in years. Had number 56 scrolled on his dorsal fin. He was in Hollover Canal. I was sitting in an office one day and I opened up a People's Magazine and there was an article on this porpoise. He was a loner. He traveled from here to Cape Cod and back. And the last they saw him, he was headed this direction in North Carolina. I have another picture. I was afraid to bring it. That boy jumped on my boat. My friend had a pointer. Pointer and porpoise, nose to each other on it. But it was really interesting. He knew you, and he hung out for years at Hollover. There's alligators. I mean, lagoon's full of them. Here is my pride picture, to be honest. This is pre-algae bloom, sawfish. I've only seen, this is the only one I've ever seen here. It was south of Sebastian Inlet, near the Wabasso area. Though, I don't know if most of you know, we used to have a lot of sawfish. And I've also seen an albino, but not here. But that's the only sawfish that I've seen. And obviously, at his size, there had to be something bigger around to make them. So, and they were in this lagoon system when it was healthy, a lot. Seagrass, something that was so abundant. This is Mosquito Lagoon. Mosquito Lagoon still has a fair amount of seagrass that's left, nothing like it was. But of all the areas, and again, can't believe why it's not clearer than it is, it has still some seagrass. Most of the other areas, I saw one of the slides that you pop up, and I think, Dwayne, you showed me one on the seagrass map. As far as your eyes can see, in most areas, there isn't. People think it's seagrass, but it's broadleaf algae that's there, and it's not grass. This is in the lagoon system here, leopard ray. This picture was taken just south of the power lines in Palm Bay. So here's a guy that everybody thinks out of place, but you don't realize that live here and the diversity that's in this lagoon system. That's a bonefish, mostly found in tropical areas, caught on a fly at the Melbourne Causeway at night. And guys are starting to catch them more and more. Since the algae bloom, the lagoon has changed its face in the species that are showing up more and more. Incredible amount of catfish, incredible amount of black drum, which they don't like grass. They like sand bottoms, so there's more of. These guys are showing up. They're actually catching them during the months of January down towards the inlet in front of Goat Creek and so forth. So these guys are around. They're kind of like the great dinosaurs. These fish came just after the dinosaur era, and there's tons of babies, and there always has been in all these mosquito controls. The reason there's so many, because they breathe air. They have a bladder. So they start out small. They continually getting bigger. This one's by Sebastian. this guy, I'm not telling you where he's at, but he's, and you can see the fly stuck in the corner of his lip up there. So he's the biggest I've ever caught in this lagoon system. I don't take them out of the water because they're pretty strong. Length times girth squared is a good way to figure. He's 135. Now, 15 years ago, occasionally you saw them. There's tons of them in the lagoon system now. During end of June to now. In the last few weeks, whether it's the rain, they came from somewhere. And there's a lot of them. But I can tell you 20 years ago, you'd never found them. They can eat anything. Redfish is what most of the lagoon got its notoriety from. The people came. There are still a fair number of them. The big schools, this summer I've seen less than I've had in recent years. I don't see the big schools of breeding fish the way I used to. But again, that's part of, we all impact it. Guides impact. We know where the schools are. We fish the same schools over and over. So we have an impact on them, but the schools aren't around anymore. So this is, they were pretty stupid years ago. I can attest to that because I could catch them. That was not a hooked fish. So that one right there, believe it or not, is the Banana River, south of Cocoa Beach on the Merritt Island side. Pompano. And here's the one I kind of ask you for help, or you're kin you to the FWC sea trout. It was the single easiest fish to catch here. We were called the trout capital of the world. It's probably one of the hardest to catch now in any numbers. I think it's the most, it's a fish that doesn't survive well after you handle them a lot. Its habitat is really gone because they were seagrass-oriented fish. And the FWC is holding meetings to try to put limits on them. On the west coast of Florida, they've put a moratorium on it for, I think, 3 years, 2 or 3 years, yeah. And here's the thing on it is numbers don't work, unfortunately, any longer. If they tell you you can catch 10 fish in a day, and you're allowed to possess 10, and there's 100 people fishing, we cut the number in half and say you could do 5. But if 1,000 people a day are moving to Florida, there's 200 people fishing now. The number doesn't do anything to help the system. So here's one fish that in our area that has, we were probably one of the best in the world at the size of these fish and the numbers, that is no longer, obtainable. So that's one thing I know the guides would like you to consider as some input to them to make it a catch and release. At one time, there was figures out, and I'm not sure there is, but when they were doing the ban the nets, which was an interesting thing, a pound of redfish to the commercial market was worth like $2. It was worth $9 to the recreation if it can come again. But I've had a lot of talks to guides about this, and Dwayne and I have too, that how do we know when the lagoon's back in a good health? It's when a commercial and recreational fishery can exist. So does everybody know Jerry Sanson? So he's probably part of my problem because he was my teacher in high school. So we battled. I wanted the A, he gave me a B, and Jerry was with organized fishermen in Florida. I was banned the nets. And it was interesting. We banned the nets. Fishing got better. But look where we are today. Because the one constant that him and I always talk about is we didn't protect the environment. So I think you guys are doing it's a great job. There's nobody out there that, everybody else has the answers. Everybody on Facebook now has PhDs. But I would like to see you guys promote more what you're doing out there to the public. So the next 10 years or 20, because this is not a 10-year program for my way of life and guiding to exist. This is going to take 20 or 30 years and it's going to take a change of people's behavior to it. So any questions?
Can you tell them what you and the guides are doing now?
We're
What you're
trying to do. Okay. Getting guides together, they're kind of a freelance group of guys. We're trying to form a guides association. And what the main basis behind it is more for education. We're not scientists. We're a long way from scientists. But if we can get out there and tell people that if you stop, and there's only one thing that we can do. We can't build the sewage treatment plants. We can't fix the lines. We can only tell people how to live more cleanly, maybe stop fertilizing, because that's the only things we can do. So that's the Guides Association. We've had a few meetings. We're trying to organize, get a 501c for the part of really the education. Because I think the general public out there, they got a million ideas on what works, but nothing science-based. So that's what we're trying to add to the system.
What's the status of the effort toward catch and release?
I know they had a meeting last Wednesday, I believe. Unfortunately, I can't tell you about it because my council meetings are on those nights. You know, they're pushing. A lot of people are pushing. And again, you got to always realize there's two sides to it, that some people, some of the guides do keep fish because some of the clients want them. So, but they really are pushing towards the majority of them because they have seen such a decline in that fishery that they don't feel it will recover unless that happens. So, okay.
Anybody else?
I think where we could help Frank and the guides is if we could give them, you know, not 30 pages of a synopsis of what we're doing with the Save Our Indian River Lagoon tax money, but if we could give them a couple of pages of bullet points so that they can talk to their clients, because that's where they would be really valuable. I mean, when you have a person in your boat out in the lagoon, it's a perfect opportunity to educate them.
Yep. There's one other thing too on it is we're a user group, but you realize how many user groups there are out there? There's people that do eco tours, there's kayak people, there's all these user groups, and the NEP, we're trying to get as many user groups to form a club or whatever, our association, so that they can also spread the word because they are the users of the lagoon system. So, anything else?
I was going to say too, Mayor, just because our county, I think it's so, I'm sorry, Dr. Windsor, because our county went ahead and voted a tax on itself, I didn't know if you were seeing or if anybody's contacted you or any of the other guides from other municipalities or bodies of water that are interested in what we're doing, because I think that may, obviously I know, like you're saying, that now you're getting daily trips instead of week-long trips, but I wonder if this area can be a location or a resource for others that are interested in how we're repairing the lagoon. I don't know if you've gotten any requests from others that are looking or asking.
I get requests from a few different things. I get requests from what we're doing from the city, from sustainability and so forth. I get those a lot. It's interesting because when we talk the lagoon, it's pretty long, 170 miles. How many counties to go through? Doc and I were talking before the meeting. The half-cent sales tax is an interesting thing because everybody thinks because we pay the tax, we don't have to change our behavior, our livelihood. So we spill the milk, we clean it up, but we never move the milk jug so it's not closer to the edge. But, you know, the one that is interests me the most is other counties not putting up the tax, and how Volusia County, who is a big part of the lagoon, how do you not vote the tax in when let's do it? And so to me, we got to be better selling, you know, clean water and how you do it. Every tackle store could have them. So I just think you got to change people's behavior. So.
Stephanie?
Last week, I had the opportunity to go to the FPRA, which is the Florida Public Relations Association conference. And there was a gentleman there who has organized Captains for Clean Water. Mm-hmm. And they're dealing with a different issue than we are because they're looking at the discharges from Lake Okeechobee and the effect that it's having on commercial fishing out there with all of those freshwater discharges into the salinity system. But they are very organized, and I think that that would be a great resource for you to talk to them about the process that they went through to get themselves organized and to get other individuals in that, captains,
Yeah.
to participate.
I belong to it. It's interesting because there's Captains for Clean Water, and then there's the one that Everglades Coalition. They kind of took two different avenues to it, because Captains for Clean Water has realized that it's not a political, you ask somebody, do you want clean water, do you want clean air, do you want clean land? Yeah, well, it's not a Republican or Democratic thing. And that's the one thing Captains for Clean Water, I think, did the best to, is they don't take, it's not a political side, it's how do we make the water clean? And that's why they are doing what they're doing, rather than, Dwayne, help me out, what's the other organization, Sandy Moret and those?
There's a number down
Everglades.
there, so you have Bull Sugar.
Bull Sugar, that's it. Bull Sugar went after it from a political end and attacking that. Captains for Clean Water doesn't really care how it gets done, as long as they get clean water. So they kind of took a different angle. But yeah, they, of all the groups, I think will get the most done because of how they're, doing it. So, any other
Anybody
questions?
else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Does anybody need a break? I think, looking down the agenda, we've only got a couple of things left in public comment. Can we just machine on through? All right. All right, so old business, revised 2020 cost share.
Right, so last month you saw this, and a couple things have changed. So at last month's meeting, you recommended an increase for the Palm Bay North Regional Water Reclamation Facility project, and once we, if the county commission approves that, then that would change the average cost for those projects. So the first row in the table of proposed cost share, that number was $300 per pound last month. Taking the Palm Bay change into consideration, that would now be $375 a month. The $1,500 per pound for septic to sewer projects we talked about last month. The idea of, instead of using an average for septic to sewer, we use that maximum that the COC recommended and the board approved in the 2019 plan update. And then what was missing last month, and this was just my bad, I forgot to divide the stormwater out by mainland, Merritt Island, and the beaches, as was negotiated in prior years. So the new numbers for that's in the third bullet on the sheet: $112 per pound of nitrogen removed for stormwater projects on the mainland, $162 per pound for stormwater projects on Merritt Island, and $140 per pound for projects on the beaches. So I put this under old business just to bring it back to you with those revisions and ask for your consideration again.
Okay. Can I get a motion unless there's questions?
I'll make a motion to recommend offering the proposed cost shares.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Do we need public comment on this one?
Yes.
Okay, any public comment on this item?
Actually, Danielle needs to make the motion.
I make his
Sorry
motion.
about that. I'm an alternate, excuse me.
Enthusiasm.
I like it.
And the second still holds? Yeah, okay. No public comment, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. New business?
Right. So we had one of the Brevard County stormwater projects, the Fleming Grant Bioabsorption Activated Media Project. When they initially applied for funding, they were eligible for $56,588 of Lagoon funding. However, their estimated project costs were just over 31,000, and with grants that they had lined up, their tax funding that we had given them was $16,800. It was reduced to that because of those grants. They've gotten to the point where they're going to the actual construction, and the cost from the engineer has increased. So they actually have a construction cost of $80,100 for a difference of $48,300 from what they initially asked for. So we would like to increase to that eligible amount, so they, were eligible for more. We just didn't fund more because the project cost didn't look as high. So that is the motion there.
Okay. We're going to need public comment on this, right? Any public comment on this item? I'm not seeing anybody out there that wants to offer a public comment. Do you want to make a motion?
I'll move to approve. I just would love to know how that estimate could be so far off.
The volume of media in the project was the main thing that changed.
Could I get a second on that before? Okay, any other discussion? There was an error made someplace, wasn't it, in the calculation?
I don't know if it was an error, it's just the way the market is right now. I mean, I think we're gonna end up having probably more of this coming through.
Oh,
on
sure.
the construction side.
Yeah.
Ask for additional funding. In the last couple of years, the construction market's just going through the roof, so.
And I think that's been discussed in previous years. We anticipated that this sort of thing was going to be happening. Okay, any other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Okay, now we're going to move on to general public comments. And before we get started, anybody who wants to make a comment, please fill out one of these yellow cards. Right now, I'm pink cards. Somebody was paying attention. Okay, and we only have one. I got one for Dwayne DeFreeze here. If anybody wants to fill one of these cards out, come up and fill one out over here. And Dwayne, would you come up, please? And address the comments to the board. We're not going to get into back and forth discussions with the public. If the board wants to address any of the comments made by the speakers, they can do so after the speaker's finished.
Good morning. For the record, Dwayne DeFreeze. I'm the Executive Director of the Indian River Lagoon National Estuary Program. I've got 3 points. First is just an announcement. The Florida Department of Environmental Protection is going to conduct a workshop on the State Revolving Fund Loan Program. This will be August 22nd, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., Sebastian City Hall on 1225 Main Street. If you don't know about this program, it's structured for really low interest loans to municipalities that are doing wastewater, stormwater improvements, water quality improvements. It is a really good high value program, and we're trying to get the word out to our municipalities that this will be a day where you can learn not only the economic metrics of this, but the ins and outs of getting involved. For communities that are really small, that are economically challenged, there's actually a grant-like component, and there's also forgiveness component. So it's a program you have to look at if you're going to be doing utility improvements, and you've got a stable revenue stream. Second announcement is one I'm really excited to make. Last week, in fact, let me back up a couple weeks. On July 23rd, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, both at Region 4 and headquarters, certified our final draft comprehensive conservation management plan for the lagoon. We brought that last week through the management conference. Our Citizens Science and Management Board all recommended unanimously to move that to council, and on August 9th, last Friday, council unanimously adopted this new 10-year plan. And so, number one, I want to thank Virginia and her staff, thank those of you who weighed in. Special thanks to Dr. John Windsor, who was there from actually the very, very beginning, because when we started this undertaking, John was present, if not driving, the 2008 plan, which we revised. So I can't tell you how much I appreciate your guidance. You kept me on track, kept me pointed in the right direction. I think we have a great plan, but I wanted to make sure everybody knows one of the powers of having this adopted plan. every single one of you who are writing proposals, local, state, even private funding should be referencing this plan to support your IRL projects. You know, it's codified, it's at the federal level, and so, you know, failure to mention it is just not taking full advantage, you know, of having these projects now, you know, in a federally recognized Clean Water Act program. So take full advantage of it. We are available to you to help in any of those regards. And then lastly, sometime in the near future, we'll be having a VIP signing event. One of the directives of that plan, and there are a number that directly relate to what I call deliverables of the National Estuary Program, is to take a hard look at monitoring. And since you talked about monitoring, starting October 1, we will have a contract with Harbor Branch Oceanographic Institution, who won a competitive RFP, and we will take a really deep dive into what a One Lagoon comprehensive and integrated monitoring plan can and should look like. I'll be looking to Virginia and your staff and all of our partners to not just identify gaps, but identify opportunities, you know, including new technology opportunities, so we do have the intelligence and information and data we need to make good decisions in the future. And with that, again, I just want to thank you all for your support. We'll keep working hard on the lagoon together and congratulate you on your progress. I mean, these projects, times it feels like they come online slow, but you've got a lot of work underway as we do, and we look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thanks, Dwayne. Vince Lamb.
Good morning, Vince Lamb. I wanted to bring it to your attention that next Tuesday on the County Commission agenda, there is a discussion of a potential biosolids ban. Or actually, you know, and this is particularly at banning the application of biosolids on Brevard County properties. You should know that 89,000 tons of biosolids are coming up from South Florida. The state DEP has prohibited the application of biosolids in South Florida to protect the Everglades and to protect Lake Okeechobee. So the biosolids from all the people in South Florida have to come up here. And a lot of them are coming into, Indian River County has just banned, a year ago, banned the application of biosolids in their county. Brevard hasn't done it yet. It may not seem, or right now it may not be a lagoon issue, at least not here. It is a lagoon issue in Martin County, or Martin's exempt, so, but in Indian River County it's more of a lagoon issue. I don't know whether it could be a lagoon issue here or not. I think you've seen some of the stuff with Lake Washington right now, so it's certainly a community clean water issue. So the agenda item next week is a discussion of a potential biosolids application ban in Brevard County. There's some discussion going on about is it important to do this because, you know, is the state DEP or the state legislature going to preempt anything that we do anyway? And you know, and so there's some concern for maybe not doing it because it may just get preempted anyway. My personal view is that having the Brevard County Board of County Commissioners take a move toward banning biosolids application in our county is at least sending a message to Tallahassee that we don't want South Florida's concentrated human waste flowing into our waters. So, you know, I bring this up to you. It's not a COC action in any way whatsoever, but I think all of you have some clean water interests that probably go beyond the shores of the St. Johns into Brevard County's other inland waterway. So if either talk to your county commissioner, email your county commissioner, come to the meeting. Unfortunately, it's item J5, and it has got so much stuff behind it. It's probably going to be an afternoon thing. So it may be more productive to just if you have strong feelings on this, and I think you should, then, then contact your county commissioner or contact all 5 county commissioners and say that you believe that Brevard County, that we should not be having more biosolids applied in Brevard County. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Vince. Okay, those are all the comment. Courtney.
Just wanted to add to that, when I agree with Vince in that we need to look at a ban anyway, regardless of what the state's doing. But I have a big concern that the direction will be to do a ban, but grandfather in the current property owners that are currently accepting these biosolids. And I hope that that's brought to everyone's attention that goes to the meeting or calls your county commission to ensure that the ban actually applies and it works, and that we're not grandfathering current property owners in, because obviously that wouldn't really do anything to help our waters. I think it's a big issue for Beachside. Lake Washington is our drinking water source, and I think when we saw the issues with the drinking water recently, I mean, I knew that it wasn't our water utility. It's definitely a water supply problem, and that's, because of really these, statewide policy issues regarding fertilizers and things like that. But our county can certainly use the support in trying to get this ban done, and I appreciate the county bringing it up. So that's all I got.
Okay, so that was final comments by Courtney Barker. Anybody else on the committee have final comments? Vinny, of course.
I know, sorry, just 2 things. First off, I know, like Johnny said, and I thought about it earlier, this is the second cost increase that we've received, and I'd imagine we are gonna get more, and I just think long-term, as we're taking on substitution projects or whatever, that we make sure that we kind of balance what we're taking on with an increase, because most of these probably have a 10%, cost overrun anyways, but we're going way above that, so just to keep in the front of our mind. And then the additional stuff that we get, is there any way we could get these emailed? And the only reason is because I save all the agenda emails into a folder, and then when I want to show somebody, I just search for that. And this is great, and I'd love to be able, I know in like 3 months somebody's going to go, do you have that report? Or is that like an ADA thing that you can't?
Yes.
Okay.
I have no way to make that report ADA compliant, right? It wasn't produced by us or for us.
So it can't come from you?
No, you can email it to him, you just can't post it on the website. So if you request a copy, you can email.
Can I request a copy?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Okay, any other comments? Any other final comments? Lorley.
So last year, the county's tourism department voted to spend $1 million a year on lagoon restoration grants. And I think we funded $350,000 worth during our first year. And today we're going to rank the second round of grants. So we were up to $750,000 worth of grants that we're seeking funding this year. And for me, this is really exciting, because the tourism community has taken a beating for people thinking that they don't care about the lagoon, and they didn't want to spend any of the tax on the lagoon. So I'm very proud of the work that our committee's been doing, and very excited about the grants that were turned in this year. And we have $100,000 in that $1 million that can be used for communications. And so we'll be working with Virginia, the tourism office will be working with Virginia and trying to ramp up some more communication stuff. Yeah.
And Earl and
Huh?
Dwayne.
And Dwayne, yes, I'm sorry, yes, definitely Dwayne. So we're excited about that. Thank you.
When's the grant period, Lorley, just for the next
Okay,
time? for
it
those that are
opened, I
interested?
think, May 31st and closed towards the end of June, so it'll probably be in the same time frame again next year. And we'd like to spend all the money, so, if you can help us get the word out, that would be great.
Okay, anybody else?
Just to address Mel's question about the STEP treatment systems, Walker, who's been around longer than I have in the program, reminded me that there was a presentation to the COC in August of 2017. So I wasn't here for that one, but if you go back to the video archives, either on the Save Our Lagoon website, our YouTube page, or the Facebook page, you find the video for August 2017, and there's a presentation from Vero Beach on that particular type of system.
Isn't it like a hybrid septic step? Yes?
Yeah, I don't think that's the same as what Cocoa Beach is doing.
Is that different?
Yeah.
Clarify?
Okay.
Yeah, so there is a step septic system, but their step system in the wastewater treatment plant is just about the flow of water through it and where you return your activated sludge to keep the bacteria living and processing the nutrients. So they are just, apparently that is the most efficient, cost effective for them.
Okay. Any other final comments?
Thank you.
If not,
Thank you for all of your work.
I'm adjourning this meeting, and I think maybe we did well on time today. Thank you for your cooperation.
The opinions expressed by any member of the public during any period of public comment do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, or the program sponsor, and are solely those of the presenter. The Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, and the program sponsor hereby expressly disclaim any and all responsibility or liability for any defamatory or slanderous statements expressed by any member of the public during any such period.